We now have 4 to 5 generations in the workforce, but truly that means we have probably just as many here at the college. And so we have an 18-year-old high school student sitting next to the 60-year-old person that just graduated in December. So things like that happen in our classroom too. There is a poor working population, so we have people, and some of them college educated, that work multiple jobs. That's the only way they can support their family. What else is on the rise? Elder care. I mean, people get older, so you know, we have students that go to work. We have students raising grandchildren. That's on the rise. We have students providing elder care, and you have some students that raise grandchildren and provide elder care. They do all of that. So a lot more demands on them because, again, people get older, lots of generations together. You saw in the previous slides, it's always been that we had a little bit higher percentage of females go to college, and generally females are a little bit more successful in college than males. Another suggestion was, and I know, it was to classify students by other than race, because there's so many other factors there. I know for reporting purposes, that's what we have to do, but really the idea was maybe you can look at what students have in common, the ones who want to get a career, the ones who go on to another degree, the full-time, the part-time, maybe there are different ways to classify students. And minority population is increasing. I mentioned it earlier. One of the things pointed out is that the other category is growing. Interracial marriages are growing, and that's usually where students would classify themselves as other. And so that, again, it's at some point you will see that all minority populations are growing, and we'll see more of them here on campus.
Okay, so the relevance of this data to the 60 by 30 goal of the state. By 2030, the goal of the state is to have at least 60% of Texans aged 25 to 34 having a certificate of degree. So in CTC, we've projected by 2030, we will have 3,300 students graduate in that year. Now, the Central Texas region estimates as a whole, all of the community colleges in the area estimate that we will have 69,000. However, for the state to meet this goal of 60% of all Texans, the Central Texas region needs almost 100,000. So they're really putting the thumbs down on us to have to up that number, that 3,300 number. I'm still digging my heels in because I don't want to overpromise. However, there are at this time no penalties for not achieving that goal, but I don't want to up that and then all of a sudden them say, oh, you know, if you don't get there, you're going to reduce this. So I'm kind of staying with the 3,300, and hopefully they won't force us to move it up higher. But that just means that we need to work hard. We need to surpass the 3,300 graduates in the year 2030. And the completion goal is that we will have 550,000 students that year complete a certificate, associate's, bachelor's, or master's from the institution of higher education. So, and how does that align with our strategic plan? Any idea? Well, our priority 1 is to enhance student success. That's part of our strategic plan. And goal 1.1 was to increase completion rates for certificate and degree seeking students. Obviously, that aligns directly with the priorities and all the data that we've shown you. Enhance services and processes to promote student success. We're constantly looking at things that we can do to help our students progress. And if you have any ideas, please share them. Each of the deans in student success area and student services area are open and working very diligently to help our students. So they're looking for any ideas you can help. And of course, our priority 3 is continuous assessment and improvement of operations and services, which again leads right to what I just said. But goal 3.2, part of that priority is to decrease barriers to enrollment. And that's what we need to keep focusing on, is things that we can do not only in student services but across the campus that will, and across the world wherever we are, that will help students get enrolled without jumping through a million hoops. So that's one of our priorities.
And that's our last slide. So the relevance of data, I guess, is what we want to talk about is why are we showing you the data? Well, obviously, we want you to know about our students, how we are compared to other students. I think there's a presentation a little bit later that compares students from CTC to other colleges. So you can see how we're doing with our other community colleges. But data is obviously important. SAC-COC requires that we provide an ample amount of data, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from Dr. Garrett what exactly everybody needs to provide, right? Yes. That we may not already have. But also, you know, we are part of the Pathways initiatives, and one of the things, we need to make sure that we develop clear pathways for students. Again, the key is to get the students in, so you, advisors, everybody can have a conversation with these students, where they're going, what their path is, so they don't do the 2 steps forward, 3 back. That really we make sure that students know all the support services that are available, and that we encourage students to take advantage of them. We love for students to graduate in 2 years, but again, like Dr. Garrett said, it's somewhat confusing when 12 hours a semester is full-time, and summer, well, summer I've always been off, you know, I don't want to go in the summer. So again, sometimes it's in educating students how they can meet their goal. And another goal for Pathways is to reduce credits earned to 60 semester hours. Some of the things that you can do, you know, when students aren't doing well in class, and through the data we talk a lot about persistence. Please make sure you use the early alerts, so that there is a signal there before it's too late, hopefully, that students need to pick it up. Culture of care, we already talked about that. Caring is good, not sacrificing any rigor, but caring is good. And it's just simply important for us to understand our students. Once we understand where some pitfalls are, for example, we showed you data on retention, then those are some areas we can focus on. We can look at our students and see what we can do, because I guarantee you that everybody in the room wants students to be successful. Sometimes maybe we want it more than they do, but generally students have the goal. They sign up for a class, they want to be successful, they want it for them, they want to move on, they want to get the job, they want to make the great money, and a lot of them are in college for that reason. So thank you very much, we appreciate your time.
All right, so I do have 3 slides just to set you up, and then our special guest is going to come in and help us with this data. It's not Johnny Carson. But one of his famous lines is, "I did not know that." So that's very pertinent to the data we're going to show today. All right, so I just want you to know our data came from a little different source than Dr. Adie's and Dr. Garrett. So the percents might look a little different, but that's what happens with the state. Sometimes we're only showing Texas reportable, sometimes we're only showing first time in college. And so it's really hard when you go on their site and look at their data. You have to be really careful of what their denominator is. So most of our data is actually from the coordinating boards, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board's 2019 Texas Public Education Almanac. That is actually going to be 2018 data for the most part, because of course we don't have data yet from fall. That is on the site. Any of you can go look at that. It is limited data. It's not some of those like persistence data you can't get and that kind of thing. We do have a few slides that are from the Texas Pathways Key Performance Indicators. You'll sometimes hear about KPIs. That data is directly through the Texas Success Center. That is what Dr. Adie and Dr. Garrett was showing you. We're going to delve into it just a little bit more and let you guys talk about it. That's what Dean Anderson's going to tell us. Okay, so when we say statewide data, that is all 50 community colleges in Texas. So we have all kinds of sizes. We've got big schools, small schools. And Dean Anderson asked that we look at the community colleges that are near us. So we took Austin Community College, which of course is very large. Again, these are Texas students. I think I'm right there, which is why our number looks low. Because for the coordinating board, that's what we're reporting. So ACC is considered a very large college. we are considered a large college. We've got McLennan Community College, they're medium, and then Temple College is also medium. All 4 of those are also Hispanic serving schools, so you'll see that sometimes also. All right, so that's the bottom line. As we get to the different charts, the charts are on your table. I tried to save a few trees. I did not print one from everyone, but if you would like, I will be happy to get you one. They're a little hard to see in printing because color was 35 cents a page, so I didn't do that. My budget can't handle that. But on the screen is going to be the color, so you'll be able to see it. I just wanted, in case the numbers were small, I wanted you to have that printout. All right, here we go. So, Dean Anderson invited a very esteemed and mystic guest. So, heaven has no brighter star than our next stellar guest, the master of East Coppers Cove and West Killeen, the keeper of the duck pond, former busboy at Lil Tex, Karnak the Magnificent. Woo!
Sorry.
All right, over here. I got it for you.
Over there. Got it. I feel like Elvis. Thank you.
We got it. Here you go, Karnak the mic. Okay. There he is. Woo-hoo. All right.
Don't
Karnak.
shut.
There we go, Mike. I'm going to stand right here. So, okay. We're going to pass around the mic.
Okay.
All right. So, Karnak, I have 17 envelopes in my hand. These envelopes. I can't even say that. Hermetically sealed last night by my husband. They've been kept in a mayonnaise jar under the Chancellor's porch since midnight last night. No one knows what's in these envelopes. No one. But you, in your mystic and borderline divine way, are going to divine us the answers.
I feel divine.
So, for any of you who don't know Karnak the Magnificent, how could you not know? You can YouTube it. Okay. He is, in his mystic way, is going to give us the answers to the questions that are in here that no one knows. So for each envelope, there's a question inside the envelope. Karnak is going to divine us the answer. But before he opens the envelope, we're going to let you guys come up and guess the question. So we need some participation. There's a standing mic here. There's no standing mic there anymore. There's a standing mic here. So you are going to come up and try to guess the question. We have bribery if you guess the question. We've got some chocolate. And then we may have a little discussion about the data. So what we're going to do first is we've got a couple that aren't data related. That we're going to do. All right, so
Just a warm up, so you get the idea.
First envelope.
Hermetically sealed.
Hermetic.
Only you know.
We got two hands.
Supervisor.
Supervisor.
And the question is?
What does Clark Kent wear to keep the sun out of his eyes? Thank you.
Okay, on this next
I
one.
really would appreciate the laughs. These are the jokes. I'm 2 years away from retirement and was forced into this. So laugh it up.
We appreciate that. You were voluntold. Okay, next envelope. Now, before Karnak opens this envelope, we're going to give you a chance to come up and tell us what the question should be. All right, Karnak. Second envelope.
Hermetically sealed.
This was in a man nice car.
Only you.
May a toothless yak give you CPR. All right. Does anybody have feather envy? Tsunami.
Woo, anyone have a guess? Don't open yet.
Tsunami.
You can yell it out. No?
Oh, here we go. Come on.
Oh, here we go. Probably not.
No, you gotta put it here. Trying to save the batteries.
Great Western Super Today.
Let's see.
What does Nami do when someone hits his car?
Come on.
All right, those are our warm-up questions.
We got one more warm-up.
Two of the day was good.
One more.
Oh, great Mystic. Give us the answer.
Oh, Jan. Gatorade. Gatorade. Nope.
Any questions?
Any guesses? Any guesses? Gatorade.
What was that?
What'd you say? How do you save an alligator? That's a good one. Better than mine.
Next
Those are great answers, actually.
You guys up here.
How does a senior alligator pay for health care? Thank you.
I have to tell you that you couldn't use any of the other ones from Johnny Carson because they're not appropriate.
Thank you.
But they're
This is
funny
way
if you want to
tamer.
go look at them. Okay, so those were the warm-ups. Now we get to the data. So the first, if you want to follow along or if you just want to look up here, this is A. So on your sheet, there's a little A with a circle. All right. So be thinking of a question. Our next going to give you the answer.
Oh, please give us the answer. Oh, great one.
I got an answer for you. CTC, of course.
What do you think?
Anybody? Nothing? I got nothing.
What could the question be?
Who is the most African American student?
That's the state. Awesome.
Who said that?
There was it.
Boom!
Boom.
Which school is the most diverse? Awesome.
Good job.
All right,
Okay,
Somebody throw candy at it.
who was that?
the deputy chancellor showed you this too.
Oh,
But it's a nice way to look by looking at the pie charts, and you can see that we're much more spread evenly than the other colleges. Okay, this is B. Brain sage.
Medically skilled. Oh, well, great one. Nothing else.
May 1,000 camels, please, infest your bed. The answer is MCC with CTC in second place.
Who has the most average cost tuition?
Yep. Good job, Barbara.
Who answered that?
That was Barbara.
Dude, get out of my head.
Okay, so I just want
communities that, which is why I'm sitting here next to, oh, great one. So you have to know that some of the other schools, they have a large tax base. And really with a state average, that includes Houston and Dallas and many of them, so that they have a chance to have more money. So for us, I think we're a good deal.
Right, this is for 30 credit hours. So this is an average, of course, across our students. We took all of the tuition, divided it by the, figured out the
credit hour is higher than ours. Is it because they give away so many free classes?
Which one, ACC?
TC. Right?
Well, the statewide.
I mean, lower, higher.
Yeah, ACC, we're not sure, but it's only $150. But they also have a really big tax base.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
of all the
they
real
got
estate.
that much more
Cost
tax.
per hour is higher.
I know, so I don't know. Yeah. That's why I said some of the data is really.
We're at $75 per class.
You know, there's something on the website, it's a company that's just come out called Niche, N-I-C-H-E, you can Google it. And they have rated the two-year colleges in Texas. And they talk about all the different things, they've given us a grade for safety, for location, for value, and we got a C on value. And when they start listing the schools that got a B minus, there were a lot of them that actually were cheaper than we were. I'm not sure why. Some of them are not in big cities, but for whatever reason, they have some kind of resource. They might have a foundation, or, if they're out next, they have oil foundations or something like that, or oil grants. There's reasons that they're cheaper. But in that rating that they did for us, it's interesting that, I have to tell you a couple things about it. First thing is I'm sorry. But the first thing is it's current. They talk about our statistics in 2020. And they have 728 comments from students. And the majority of them starting out are really, really, really good comments. And I thought, where did they get those? Because some of the answers were, I'm gonna go to the CTC, but I haven't started yet, so I don't know where they were surveying. And then I thought, did they make some of these up? But no, they mention a lot of teachers by name. They had, I love Dr. Carnell, I love this, I love that. I love this person's class. And there are way more positive ones than negative ones. They go from 5 stars, and at the very end, there's a couple of them that are 1 star. But it's a very positive look at us, I think. And I was surprised that, according to them, with value was not our number one thing. Our number one thing, actually, with them was diversity and safety. So, okay, great one.
I'm just sweating here, it's fine, take your time. It's all about you, Jess, it's fine.
Okay, so this one is our percent enrollment change. So this is a change from 2013 to, basically, I know we don't have this year's data, but to 2018. So we have the 4 schools and we have the statewide. So it's a change from 2013 to 2018.
MCC.
Most growth.
Okay, the math people can't answer. I'm just kidding. Maybe just Barb.
I'm gonna go see the social science then.
Okay.
Which college had the greatest growth from 2013 to 2018? Spot on.
Yes.
We were trying to figure out why. Why do you think that would be?
I just wanted to know that they have the highest growth, but also the highest tuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, you noticed that.
Waco's been growing.
Waco's growing. No, but Texas. Yeah. No. No.
That's, you keep saying that in these numbers, and that's what's confusing to us, is these numbers are representing, saying just the state of Texas. But we probably have a way larger number of students worldwide online, and that affects our tuition rates, because they pay a different tuition rate.
You are right, yeah.
And our numbers are way, are larger worldwide compared to these other community colleges. And so this doesn't really represent our college very much in the big picture whatsoever.
Okay, so what he's saying is that because this is Texas reportable and just in Texas, it really doesn't include all the online worldwide, which would give
Or
us a big.
satellite campuses.
Yeah, or
And these
well,
other colleges don't have satellite campuses, ma'am, worldwide or even in the United
well,
States.
satellite campuses in Texas, but it doesn't include satellite Texas,
Or even,
outside of Texas, yeah.
Mr. Rowe, it doesn't represent your people. And so these other
Yes, it
campuses,
does. If military are in Texas.
no, he doesn't. I'm talking about
He does
people.
Continental also.
I'm talking
correct.
about, Alabama, I'm talking about Washington State.
Correct.
And so these other campuses, when you're talking about their numbers, well, sure, they look good compared to our numbers, but we're responsible for all these other satellite campuses. Let's bring all of our numbers together and see where we really stand against them.
Well, that's true, but our competition for Central Campus is here. I mean, that's why we're looking at these particular schools, because they sometimes leave CTC and go to Temple College, or leave here and go to, but that's a very good point, right? Yeah, there are.
You have another question. You have another question.
Programs and registration. I went to the bank one day and a teller got on my ass. I had my CPC name badge on. She talked about how much she paid. Her issue was with registration. This was like 2 years ago, but still, I doubt much has changed.
Okay, so if you didn't hear her, she's saying they do have, MCC has more partnerships with 4 years where they can go on pathway and go directly to another school and graduate. That might affect their numbers. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been on the MCC campus, but they have a hallway where they have offices with all the 4 years on it. Good point.
Carnack's falling asleep.
All right.
Oh, one more.
Carnack.
Dean Anderson. There's one.
Do the MCC numbers reflect the fact that MCC closed a lot of the programs and then reopened them recently? I think that might skew that 4.7%.
Well, I know they lost, the nursing lost accreditation and then they regained it. That's true. I mean, that could play a factor into it. We're wondering about it. It's kind of up for discussion. That's a good point. I think another thing is they are strongly academic. And maybe with many people working on their core, and because they have like 5 schools, 4-year schools on campus, with offices on campus. They have a hallway you can walk down, and they've got all the different 4-year flags there. That may have something to do with it too, is their presence there. I don't know, it's a good question. I think it has to do with space. Okay, I got 2 more over here. Okay, Dan?
One thing you might need to consider, you're saying that their tuition is so high. You're saying the tuition is so high at MCC? But the tuition at MCC is still lower than Baylor, which is literally just across town. So their numbers could be going up with a lot of Baylor students coming over.
Just a quick point about what it is. Just the last couple of years, they've made a lot of improvements to their campus. They're like really, really nice campus. I don't know where they have money from that, but yeah, they have it with others as well.
That may be, but we have a really nice campus too. Once we get done with all the construction. Anybody else?
You haven't been to my building.
Our next one.
So you can see it really is difficult to compare. It's not apples and apples. It's apples and pineapples, and I don't know what kiwi. So we do the best we can, but that's why we wanted to talk to you guys about this, because as you can see, you guys have great ideas. All right, next one. This is percent full-time versus part-time. So the blue on the bottom is the percent full-time. The red is the percent part-time.
Get what you pay for
A quarter of the students. 1/4 of the students.
How many are part-time?
Good. Yay.
Good job.
Lisa.
Okay, why am I here?
Table, I said no.
Why am I
Okay, this is my last one.
So you can see we have very different full-time population, and so that's going to affect all that data of whether they did, because one of the things the state likes to put out is 15 credit hours in the first semester. Well, that's not going to happen with all this part-time. And then they do 15 credit hours in the first year. Well, most of our students, also if they're part-time, they're not going to make that mark. So there's a lot going on in the background when you're looking at this data. Good? Any comments? All right. So this is where the blue is the percent of academic programs. The red is the percent of technical programs. Wake up.
Temple College, or where I wish I was at this very. What was that?
What's the question?
If you answer it in the form of a question. It's got the right answer. I'm out. I wonder why I confused myself.
You got it.
You got the answer. It is, the answer is, which college has less technical programs?
Yeah, for their community.
So, Ronnie, you need to take a trip. I don't even know where Ronnie is. You gotta take a trip up to Temple and start recruiting students, right? Because we got the programs. All right. So these numbers are gonna, again, look different from what the Deputy Chancellor's presented because it's a different database and it came from a different source.
I'm hot, right? ACC and CTC.
Correct. Bingo.
I'm social science now, though, you're not math, so
Wait a minute, I think, let's hear the question, Carl.
Oh, I need to read the question?
It is a little different, even though they just gave blank candy.
Which schools are below the state average for receiving Pell Grants?
Just a little different. Those were hermetically sealed.
I don't think so.
Okay, this is a crazy chart. Crazy, but the first part of it is all 4 schools again. These are only full-time students, and this is how many graduated with a degree or a certificate. So, of course, they're different cohorts because we're looking at years. We can't look at 6 years of data from 2015 yet. So the first column is the cohort from 2015 if they graduated in 3 years. This is everybody, underprepared, prepared, but it's only full-time on the top. and then the percent for, that graduated in 4 years and 6 years. On the bottom is part-time. Does that make sense? Okay.
ACC, CTC, and Temple College vary greatly from the statewide average. That's the answer.
So we need the question. You need to come to the mic.
ACC, CTC, and Temple College vary greatly from the statewide average.
Say again.
What schools score below the state average on full-time and part-time?
Which colleges differ from the state graduation data? Graduation.
I think I was tired on this one. This is a who's buried in Grant's tomb question.
She's tired. She's tired.
I'm tired. Pardon, I am. You wear me out.
So why do we think there's such a difference in graduation rates?
Transient community.
Any ideas? Military?
We have a lot of transfer students, right, that don't actually graduate. They come and spend time with us and maybe do their core and head on. Unfortunately, we don't get credit for that.
10 minutes on something that can be answered in 30 seconds.
A lot of our part-time people, they're not even here to get a degree, right? They're just trying to take classes to do better at their job or to get a raise, a promotion. So it's interesting. These rates are very low, and it's not going to help us get to 60 by 30. We've got to work on these. All right. Let me explain this chart. So the first column is the average time in years to get to an associate's degree. Okay, so statewide is it takes an average of 4 years to get an associate's degree. The second column is the average semester credit hours that those students took to get to the associate's degree. So remember, the state makes us, associate's degree has to be 60 hours, right? As you guys all know, because you get to struggle with that all the time. So that second column is the average semester credit hours to get to an associate's degree.
Okay. CTC wins this category.
Credit hours to an associate's degree.
Again, why am I here?
Who did that one?
Debbie.
Who was that?
Debbie. Throw it at her. Throw it at her.
So you can see we're not that far off with the average time. Now remember, this isn't a lot of students because we just saw our graduation rates. So this is only people who actually get an associate's degree. So it's a smaller cohort, but we're not that far off on time. We're at 4.5 years and the state average is 4. But we're doing great with semester credit hours, so that's why we're doing well with pathways, because we're showing them. So this is older data. Now that you guys have done all that pathways with the stackable certificates and the heading into degrees, I think that number's going to go down even more, and we're way below the statewide average. So yay, yay for CTC. Yes.
Would you repeat the question? Okay, so she's asking if those are attempted hours or completed hours.
It's everything,
I'm not sure.
knowing the
No,
state.
I mean, if that's to graduation, that would be completed hours.
I will look that up.
Yeah, but otherwise, we wouldn't have an average time.
Okay.
I'm happy that you're paying close attention to that. That's good.
So this is looking at graduation rates for the 2015 cohort. But it's comparing underprepared versus prepared. So underprepared in this means that they're not TSI complete yet in either reading, writing, or, well, it means they came in that way, excuse me, let me start over. They came into college being not TSI complete in one of those, either reading, writing, or math, probably math, but. So the blue on the bottom are the underprepared students, and then the red is students who came in ready to go. They were TSI complete and they started right, or of course they were TSI exempt. That could be awesome.
Dramatically seal.
Does it smell like mayonnaise? Because it was in that.
Yes, it smells like mayonnaise. That's gross. Don't ask me how I know that. All right, here we go. ACC wins the booby prize on this one.
Underprepared.
That's it.
Wow.
I am. Who stands out with 3-year graduation rates?
Very exciting. All right, so what I thought was interesting here were the gaps. Like, look at that huge gap with MCC. They got to work on their developmental math there at MCC. We probably have one of the smallest gaps except for ACC. But we're on our way with co-recs, right? We are going to get these students out of math and into your programs and graduate. But I just thought that the gaps were interesting. Do you understand? Did you have something on this? Good. Good. All right. Questions?
Ready for the next one.
Okay. So this is the average debt that a student leaves our college with.
Once again,
Yay for CTC or boom! That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
I don't know. Do you have the right envelope?
Yeah, I do.
And the question? Exactly, that's
Boom.
most step. Okay, nobody gets candy because everybody got that at one time. Sorry. Yeah, we had a lot of winners on that one.
All right, so that was pretty straightforward. Let's keep going. Oops. Yeah.
How do you see on that website that Nancy mentioned when our
That's what she can't figure out.
when our students are
I don't know if it was a grade of C, we're gonna have to look at that website, if it's a grade of C or if it's a ranking, and they ranked other things about us ahead of that. We'll have to look at that. It sounds very, very interesting website and see how they're doing that. I know, that is the really hard part with data, is figuring out who they talk to, what the denominator is, who they threw out, because as you know, statisticians lie and liars use statistics, so.
yeah.
College debt, so tuition, books.
Yes.
But if our total cost of 60 hours is 5,500, that's 3 times the tuition cost to get a degree.
No, that was that average, that's
Yeah.
the average cost, it's only tuition and fees, it's not books. And it's not anything else like your dorms. And also that was only for 30 credit hours.
No,
So,
if a program is 60 hours,
Correct.
and our hourly cost is $90, you can complete 60 hours with $5,500.
Yeah, but that's just tuition.
I know, but I wouldn't think books is another times 2.
That's, you keep
Each
changing
class,
the
you pretty much gotta double it, $300.
Yeah, our students don't. So remember, that number of 70 was for people who graduate, and we only have like whatever, 10 to 13% of people graduating. We have people taking all kinds of classes, and right, and changing, yeah. And those are things thank you, Cindy. Those are things we have to think about, because why are they leaving with this much debt? Because that's part of the 60 by 32, is that we have to look at debt. So you're right, that's awesome.
It's not all our debt. It must be debt they're accumulating for other.
It's a student debt. Oh, I'm sorry, it's student debt.
Right.
Yeah. Right, so it might not be just from us, or it might be because they moved around programs, or maybe they took a class a couple times. Like, they probably have more than the 70 credit hours. A lot do, yes.
Either that or y'all can either walk to the mines.
Yes, the comment is that when students take out student loans, it's not only just for tuition, right? It's for living expenses. So they could definitely add on. And then also, depending on when they take out the loans, it could, technically already have interest on top of it. So, yes, thank you. There's lots of things going on. And that's what the state's trying to look at with 60 by 30.
I think we were surprised that there were, when Dr. Garrett was doing hers, that there was only 44% on L. But I think we have a lot of military assistants here with my CAA and TA. I mean, I think that probably keeps student debt low.
Okay, we're almost there. We're getting there. All right, you guys are going to love this chart. Okay, so the first column is the percent of full-time faculty versus part-time, right? So we have 37.2%. This was from 2018 data. Of full-time faculty, everybody else is part-time. The second column, so that's just purely whether we're full-time or, right? That's just the stats of how many full-time. The second column is the percent of semester credit hours taught by those full-time faculty. So think about that a minute. The first column is how many of us there are. The second column is the percent of semester credit hours taught by us. And then finally, there's the student-faculty ratio.
CTC, because full-time faculty teach in their sleep. Just telling you what I get.
CTC because full-time faculty teach in their sleep. So what's the question?
Oh, that sounded right.
That was
Barbara, you're going to have to come to a mic. Oh, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Who has the most full-time faculty teaching the most semester credit hours? Teaching the most semester credit hours.
You get M&Ms if you word it exactly the right way. No, you're right, you're on it.
Which school has the biggest gap between the full-time percent and the semester credit hours percent?
Yeah. Right, because like Temple College, they teach almost 81% of the semester credit hours, but about 50% are full-time. ACC has about the same percent full-time as us, but they only teach 54%. So we're teaching everything. Right? A lot.
Oh, I think this is directly related to 6,000 5,000 content hours.
Just out of imagination. Okay, so now we're gonna switch. That was all almanac data that the coordinating board gathers. Now we're gonna do the pathways, key performance indicators. I'm sorry, it's gonna be a little bit of a repeat of the deputy chancellors, but we're gonna discuss some of it a little bit and get some input from you guys. So I don't have the other schools' KPI data, they don't let me have that. So we only have CTC and then the statewide.
I don't take
All
my
right, so
phone.
this one is if a student takes a class and they make, now coordinating board likes D's. So if they get a grade of A, B, C, or D, or P, some classes still have pass fail. So A, B, C, D, or a P. This is the percent that successfully completed their semester credit hours. So successfully completed means the D's also. So based on their however many classes you took.
The answer is only 4% from the state data.
I thought it should just be ABC in the majority of people shouldn't have an A. The majority of them might have. Come on.
Not far.
Students or your coursework
All right.
is easy, which makes sense for like an intro course.
How does CTC look compared to the state data? Yeah, I didn't write this.
That's it.
Okay, so this is of course an average,
I've seen that a lot.
and it includes D's. So depending on, so like in math, if you're not a math major, D means diploma, so you're okay. So you can be in there. But, you know, English comp, no, because if you need the second one, you can't have a D. So most of our classes, the D is not going to help our percent. So we're not too far off from the state. Just thought it was interesting. All right, this one is very important. We definitely have to talk about this one. This is persistence data. So what this means for the fall cohort for each of those. So these people are first time in college. So this isn't everybody. This is first time in college in fall of whatever year. It is Texas reportable. So we do include military that are here in Texas in this. They're part of Texas reportable. What we're looking at is if they enrolled in fall, it doesn't matter if they passed or didn't pass, if they enrolled in fall, this is how many people enrolled in at least one credit-bearing course in the spring. We do include debit in that credit-bearing, but so they were enrolled in the fall, they did whatever they did in the fall, and then they enrolled in at least one credit-bearing course in the spring. So you can see that in 2017, we only had 63% come back. We like to talk about that. I forgot the envelope, sorry.
Yeah, we need to do the envelope.
Okay, I probably just gave the answer.
You did.
Oh, you knew from all the way over there? Wow. Your borderline
it.
divineness is amazing.
I felt it in the heart of my bottom. Thank you for that. The answer is we need to develop strategies for persistence. What's the question?
Exactly, bingo.
And why am I dressed like this?
So what does CTC need to do? How do we do that?
Yes.
okay, I can run over there.
I tried to get out because they blocked the parking lot exit. She's planning an alternate strategy.
My car is
Go downstairs, go this way, go over there.
I'm sure it's not included, which is one reason that this number is the way it is, yeah. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for things that the faculty can do to help students persist, because I gotta tell you something. You know, we ask you to put the last day of attendance when a student stops coming to class, and the reason that that's so important is because after the 60% mark in class, the student doesn't have to repay. We have to repay, the CTC has to repay. So the persistence in class becomes a money issue for us. That's one thing. And that last day of attendance is really, really important for us to know exactly at what percent in the course did that student stop coming or did that student drop. So yes.
One thing I'm just curious to clarify on that from my understanding is not at this point. Like Ian Smith had asked us to put in the last time they logged in if it were in Blackboard. I have students that just kind of pop in, they don't ever do anything, but they pop in to show that they've been there. They don't submit any work, so I would like to be able to have some type of procedure in place to say, look, if you're not doing any work, you don't get to be past that 60% mark. Put it at the beginning when you truly have never done anything. Except the first week assignment, and then I log in from time to time to show that I'm here. Even the last day of class, I'm gonna log in.
I put in last participation day.
Habitual students too, I have habitual students that do that for their benefits. And so they do this for multiple courses, and they might get dropped because of a census report. And they don't care if they get F's. They don't care if they get a D in the course, or they'll just ride the course out and get a D or an F from me. All right, and they're just getting their VA benefits because they're veterans, okay? And
Okay,
so they
Amelia,
don't care.
I haven't forgotten about you. Just hold on, sit down just a second. Let's handle this part.
So there are multiple, and so I can't deny them from re-enrolling that course because we want our money. Like my final project course. You know, I got one getting ready to go through for the third time. You know?
So what do you suggest we do about that?
We should be able to say, no, you're not coming back in.
In an online course?
An online
Are they
course.
self-paced?
No. Deny.
Okay, I don't think we can answer that today, but I think we need to mull that around.
Across the room now.